This is your daily dose of all things royal.
I worked really closely with the two of them, and we had lots of great times. Working on their wedding was an amazing, magical experience. And, you know, I wish them absolutely all the best with their lovely family.
Jason Knopf, once a trusted aide within the royal household and a key figure in exposing Meghan Markle's conduct, has at last lifted the veil of silence. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. This past Sunday, in a rare and revealing interview broadcast by 60 Minutes Australia, he offered an intimate window into his time alongside the Prince and Princess of Wales, shedding light on his experiences with the couple poised to one day ascend the throne. Jason Knopf, who was the joint head of communications for both Harry and Meghan and William and Catherine, opened up about his time working for the royal family as part of this new documentary called Where There's a Will. In this video, I'm diving headfirst into my raw take on the interview, unearthing a jaw-dropping revelation that hit me like a lightning bolt today, something I hadn't pieced together until now. Trust me, you're going to want to stay and watch till the very end. So to summarize this 60-minute Australia segment, really is a focus on Prince William and offers an insight and exploration of his future, what it might be like once he becomes King of England. This roughly 20-minute interview/documentary features insights from royal aides and journalists, but the particular spotlight was on Jason Knopf, who was a former senior aide to William and Catherine, who worked closely with the couple from 2015 to 2021. This particular episode delves into what kind of leader William might become, painting this picture of his character, his priorities, as well as the challenges he has recently faced, while also briefly touching upon his strained relationship with his brother, Prince Harry. We must remember that Jason Knopf's specialty and background is in communications and PR. So I find myself asking the question, what purpose is this interview serving? And why did he agree to do this sit down now?
Imagine the pressure. For most of his life, Prince William has been preparing to become His Majesty. And for 7 years, Jason Knopf was never far away. First, as his press secretary,
Duchess to the Okanagan. This marks the royal.
Then as the CEO of the Royal Foundation.
So a couple things come to mind. The palace likely sanctioned this interview with Jason Knopf tapped to shape Prince William's image as a future king. It does appear it's a clear PR move to familiarize the public with William's readiness to rule, doubling as polished brand management for the couple set to become king and queen. And I think that makes a whole lot of sense, especially if the rumors are true that King Charles is thinking of possibly stepping down sometime in the near future. I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it would make sense that these two are now being prepped to take the stage.
The thing I have heard from Prince William is you're going to do this in your own way. You know, every generation of the royal family has to reinvent the role for the generation that they serve.
And while we all know that Prince William and his family are globalists, I do believe that Prince William is genuinely trying to do good for the world. And what we see with Prince William and Princess Catherine and their family is a true reflection of who they are. I know that Prince William is heavily protected as far as his image and his brand goes by the institution, but as we have watched him over the course of his whole entire life, can any of us say that this guy was one of those bad eggs that was hanging around shady businessmen or doing shady business deals or, you know, involved in any type of scandal or associated with scandal? No, not that I can recall. I truly believe that what we are seeing is what people are going to get. And for whatever it's worth, there is a sense of trust that you can put into them because they have time and time again proved themselves to be good human beings. And just like Harry, we have to remember that he lost his mom too. And I don't doubt that there were moments where he had his outbursts, and rightfully so. But what William has done, as you can see, is clearly he rose above it and chose to not make himself a victim. And now he has 3 beautiful children that he is raising for the future. When you look at Prince William, you can tell that he is living a very meaningful and fulfilling life. Put aside that he comes from privilege, you can see the difference between someone who is grounded in the family that he has created versus what his brother has created. William understands that money and material things, as well as fame, is not the key to happiness. It's really unfortunate that Prince Harry turned out the way that he did. Because it's gotta hurt Prince William to see his own brother stab pretty much his whole entire family in the back as a result of this evil bitch that he's with. And I think that Prince Harry's own unhappiness allowed him to do that. Because when people are miserable and you see very malicious and vindictive people like Meghan Markle, they will do just about anything to take away other people's happiness, just so they can feel better that they're not the only ones feeling so miserable. What Jason Kanoff says here in this interview about the trolling makes me hate Meghan that much more, because we know that she was behind it.
Catherine's heartfelt announcement came after weeks of intense and sometimes bizarre speculation about her health.
Where is Kate Middleton? Where are you, Kate?
It made an already terrible time even more stressful for the future king.
Within a couple weeks, if you're Prince William, you find out that both your wife and your father have cancer. And that is, I couldn't believe it. It was awful, absolutely awful. It's the lowest I've ever seen him. But the problem was all this crazy sort of conspiracy theory stuff kicked off in the background online.
And we all know that that was led by Christopher Boozy and the Sussex Squad. And that's what makes this so evil in what Harry and Meghan did.
Was she really ill? But they didn't want to say yet that she had cancer because they hadn't told the children and they were still working through how to tell the children.
What captivated me the most throughout these 20 minutes was the remarkable restraint exhibited by Jason Kanoff.
I worked really closely with the 2 of them, and we had lots of great times. Working on their wedding was an amazing, magical experience. I wish them absolutely all the best with their lovely family.
Rather than bad-mouthing Harry and Meghan, whoever had been behind the 60 Minutes Australia interview allowed to rehash the history, subtly resurrecting memories of his pivotal role in exposing Meghan's mistreatment of staff and the subsequent efforts to conceal her less than admirable conduct. One cannot help but wonder if the orchestration of this interview's timing. Did it emerge with calculated precision to eclipse Meghan's much-anticipated Netflix launch and rebranding endeavor? You can't help but ask that question because if you recall back in 2021, if you were following this saga, the leak of that infamous email deftly timed just before Meghan's appearance on Oprah, which struck a devastating blow to Meghan's credibility. Might this be a reprise of that same playbook? I would like to think so. But when you think about it, I don't think it really matters when this interview was released because Meghan's in the news every single day for something. So if it's not now and it was after, let's say Meghan released her With Love Meghan, you can hear the same exact excuse coming from the Sugars. Oh, the palace is trying to sabotage her rebrand, or a calculated attempt by the royal family to damage Meghan's reinvention as the Susie homemaker. It doesn't matter. They're going to blame the royal family regardless. But what I do see is strategic and calculated is Jason Kanoff being very diplomatic about it, not saying anything bad and not revisiting and rehashing history. But he knows that people online are going to be rehashing history. People online are going to go back and revisit and resurrect what Meghan had done. And sure enough, that's what's happening. I know that's what I did, and I made a huge discovery. Let me show you. So let's go back in time to November 12th, 2021, from The Telegraph, written by Camilla Tominey, How the Palace Tried to Rescue Duchess Difficult. As Meghan apologizes for misleading a British court, we reveal the lengths to which staff went to save the Sussexes from themselves. I'm only going to read the first half of this article just to refresh everybody's memory, and then I'm going to show you something. 2 days before Jason Kanoff sat down with Omid Scobie and Carolyn Duran to provide a 2-hour background briefing for Finding Freedom, their biography of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, he had an extraordinary email exchange with Prince Harry. Desperate for the authors to get some truths out there, the prince begged the communications secretary he shared with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to make sure Meghan was cast in a positive light. Media onslaught, cyberbullying, on a different scale, puppeteering, Thomas Markle, etc., etc., etc. Even if they choose not to use it, they should hear what it was like from someone who was in the thick of it. So if you aren't planning on telling them, can I? An incredulous Kanoff replied, "Of course, I've never stopped." It was a sharp insight into just how many fires he and others had fought for Harry and Meghan's behalf in the 2 years since she had come onto the royal scene. Understandably, much has been made of the evidence showing that the Duchess did cooperate with the authors of what turned out to be a highly flattering account of the Sussexes' lives in the royal family. Indeed, this week, Meghan was forced to apologize for previously unintentionally misleading the High Court in her privacy case against the Mail on Sunday that is now at the Court of Appeal. But this week's revelations also lay bare another uncomfortable truth for the couple. Far from being unsupported by the institution as they described the monarchy to interviewer Oprah Winfrey, the evidence appears to tell a different story. Rather than being abandoned, it's a damning indictment of the gospel according to Harry and Meghan. Duchess difficult. Moreover, it exposes just how much was done behind the scenes to placate the pair nicknamed Duchess Difficult and the hostage below stairs. Plus, it is a vindication of staff who have always claimed they bent over backwards for the couple. Most of all, it is impossible now not to recall Meghan's emotional interview with Oprah last March as she exclaimed, "I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice, and I was silent." When asked, "Were you silent or were you silenced?" Meghan famously replied, "The latter. Not only was I not being protected, but they were willing to lie to protect other members of the family, but they weren't willing to tell the truth to protect me and my husband." Yet what Kanoff's witness statement and the Duchess's response to it reveals is that no one was silent. And it wasn't just the palace PR machine that was going into overdrive for the couple, but the royals themselves. Indeed, further contradicting her earlier primetime narrative, Meghan this week went into great detail about the lengths her in-laws had gone to help, especially in regards to her father, Thomas Markle Sr., who pulled out of his daughter's May 2018 wedding at Windsor Castle at the last minute, following a heart attack. She admitted 2 senior members of the royal family, whose names have not been made public, held a meeting with her and Harry in regards to how to deal with the concerns surrounding my father and his dealings with the media. Meghan went on, "In accordance with the advice that I received from the 2 senior family members, I decided that I would write a letter to my father." Yet while the Duchess claims, in quotes, "It was only when my father began criticizing the royal family that senior members of the family and their advisors expressed their concern and their desire to have them stopped." Palace insiders tell a different story. In fact, they insist that quote-unquote concerns were raised on multiple occasions about how to help the couple, as well as manage the Thomas Markle situation, long before he started talking to the media. The revelations this week certainly seem to contradict Harry's claim to Oprah that they left the royal family due to the lack of support and lack of understanding. So I need everybody to make a note here, and this is important, that the palace was trying to deal with Thomas Markle Sr. way before he started speaking to the media. Now hold that thought. You'll see where I'm going with this in a second. According to one well-placed source, high-level discussions were taking place about the Duchess's father for months and months before the wedding. But matters really came to a head when Markle, a former Hollywood lighting director, gave his first ever interview to the Daily Mirror in December 2017, headlined, Royal Wedding Exclusive. I'd love to walk Meghan down the aisle. The front page story boasted of how a reporter had tracked Meghan's reclusive father down to Rosarito Beach to discuss the upcoming union between his daughter and Prince Harry. Let's pause for a second and revisit that article, dated December 7th, 2017, a week after it was announced that Harry and Meghan were engaged. Exclusive. Meghan Markle's father breaks silence to say he would love to walk his daughter down the aisle at her wedding to Prince Harry. Reclusive Thomas Markle says he's delighted to be welcoming Prince Harry into his family and insists he'd love to walk his daughter down the aisle. The article says Meghan Markle's father, Thomas, has said he is delighted to be welcoming Prince Harry into the family. When the Mirror tracked reclusive Thomas Markle down in Mexico, he broke his silence on the royal wedding to say he hopes to walk his daughter down the aisle on her big day. Asked if he will be at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle to give away Meghan, Thomas Markle Sr. beamed, "Yes, I'd love to." The 73-year-old added, "I'm very pleased. I'm delighted." However, he could reveal no more about his actress daughter's royal romance, saying, "I'm sorry, you know I can't talk." He has kept his silence since the engagement was announced. His ex-wife, Doria Raglan, has also not spoken. The Mirror handed him a bottle of bubbly to toast the couple. And to give him a taste of Britain before he flies in for the wedding, tipped to be on May 26, we handed him a box of Twinings English breakfast tea, which carries the Queen's royal warrant. He said, "Thank you. That's very kind." Continuing on back with the Telegraph article, under the headline, Crisis Talks, asked if he would be in attendance at St. George's Chapel to walk his daughter down the aisle, Markle answered, "Yes, I'd love to." Then he added cautiously, "I'm very pleased. I'm delighted. I'm sorry. You know I can't talk." The Telegraph understands that the article sparked crisis talks at the palace, an institution well-versed in managing situations that protect its own reputation and privacy. Another source says the whole institution was involved, not just the press office, but palace lawyers, senior aides, and family members. Now, Camilla Tomini is a respected journalist. She was the one that actually broke that Harry and Meghan were dating. She was the one that kicked it all off. Now, looking at this paragraph, the Telegraph understands that the article sparked crisis talks to such an extreme that they had to get lawyers and the whole family was involved. Now, I just read that article to you. Was there anything that was stated in that article that deemed such a response by the palace to involve lawyers and to get every member of the royal family and to have crisis talks? This was fairly harmless. Why didn't they have crisis talks for when Samantha, right out the gate after it was announced Harry and Meghan were dating, started to run her mouth? They didn't have crisis talks. They didn't have lawyers present. Why didn't they do that? But they do this for Thomas Markle after being approached by a journalist and he comments and says, "I'd love to walk my daughter down the aisle." That sparked crisis talks? No, folks. Remember what was said earlier in this article, that they were having high-level discussions months and months before this wedding. Keep in mind, this article came out in December 7, 2017, which leads me to believe, and you guys can draw your own conclusion, but my conclusion is this was a setup from the very beginning. You see the Daily Mirror? This is a news outlet that Harry and Meghan constantly go to give stories. They are Sussex friendly. So here we have the Daily Mirror being the one who finds Thomas Markle. Oh yeah, and then a source whispers that the date of this wedding is going to be May 26th. Yeah, we see you, Rachel. I am of the belief, and you can draw your own conclusions, but Thomas Markle was in on it from the very beginning, or whoever this man is. Thomas Markle knew that he was going to be approached because Meghan sent him. Thomas Markle knew that he was also not going to the wedding because, in my humble opinion, he's not related to Meghan. Now, I want to circle back to the point that I made earlier to really drive it home for you guys to see where I'm coming from. Thomas Markle's response as a father who at the time was not having any beef with his daughter, his response was not absolute. So if he's saying that he hopes to walk her down the aisle, sitting in Thomas Markle's position, who else would be there to walk your daughter down the aisle if not you? You don't need to be asked. You don't need to hope. That's your job. So now when we go back to Camilla Tominey's article, why would they need to manage the situation with Thomas Markle when he didn't begin speaking to the media until December 7th, 2017? So they were having conversations long before he started talking to the media? Which leads me to believe the Queen knew the real story about those people we are calling the Markles. Especially now looking back at this court case and seeing how Meghan lied. You see how she backtracked in the paragraph where she was saying that the palace told her to write a letter about her dad and they were trying to give advice as to how to handle the situation? No, they were trying to figure out how to handle the situation before they even got married. I'm sorry, I find it very hard to believe that the Queen didn't do her due diligence and done a thorough background check on Thomas Markle Sr., Thomas Markle Jr., Doria, and Samantha. And I guarantee that these crisis talks were about finding things about who these people were that caused them to literally cut them off in the sense of keep their distance away from them. I mean, when you look at how Thomas Markle was so-called treated, he never had any sort of invite or an extension or any type of letter or nothing from the royal family indicating that they acknowledge him as Meghan's father. And then you have Prince Harry, who never took the time to ever meet Meghan's father once, not even have the decency to go ask for her hand in marriage in person. And still to this day, he's yet to meet this man. You have to ask yourself this question, why? And I know some of you are going to say, well, it's probably because Meghan told Harry that Thomas Markle Sr. had messed with her. Sure, that's the story that was seeded. That was the planted story, but I don't buy it because if that was the case, then why did Harry and Meghan make such a big deal over Thomas Markle no longer coming over to walk Meghan down the aisle? Unless he never really was ever going to be walking down the aisle, and that was established from day one. Now, over the last couple of days, I've been coming across these details that lead me to believe that there is a possibility that Thomas Markle may not be Meghan's father, based off of looking at things that just don't make sense unless Meghan's not really related, which then would answer how Meghan's so casually able to just cut her father off, not, have any type of contact or allow him to see these children, not even wish him a happy birthday, doesn't even talk about him. Right? When you look at the palace specifically and noticeably leaving Thomas Markle's name off of the announcement of the birth of baby Sussex, and then you have all those pictures that not only in past videos that have shown you have been manipulated and were provided by Thomas Markle Sr., we're beyond giving any more benefit of the doubt. And I think it's reasonable to now ask the questions or possibilities as to maybe these people are not even related, based off of so many inconsistencies, so many contradictions, so many lies. And here we are, right? Things just don't add up. And I know we are not being told the truth, especially when you have so much drama and discourse at everything. Even the simplest thing, such as her birth date, shouldn't have so much drama around it. I mean, ask yourself this question. Do you believe that Thomas Markle went off to Southeast Asia to go meet people? I mean, come on, people. We're dealing with a level of crazy that is literally on purpose, as seen here with Meghan and how she cosplays Diana. And I think that's all intentional. This is all to get people to talk about Meghan. I mean, literally, the woman is certifiably crazy, but that's what the CIA looks for. They look for psycho and sociopaths, and she fits the bill perfectly. Now, the last thing that I want to finish up here with that article by Camilla Tomini from November 2021 is this paragraph. As Meghan revealed in her witness statement this week, around the time she was drafting her letter to her father in August 2018, Simon Case, then Prince William's press secretary and now the cabinet secretary, even suggested that the couple fly out to see my father and speak with him in person. So if you get the chance, look up Simon Case. There's quite a bit of controversy surrounding this guy. And what I'm interested in seeing is the soon-to-be-released Epstein client list that is supposed to drop any day now. But what's interesting is Simon Case was listed and named in the Sleazy E Black Book seen here. So, to be continued, folks. So for now, I'll let you sit and digest some of this information. What do you guys think? Do you draw the same conclusion that I am? What do you make of this information now being presented? Definitely let me know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
I was such a fraud.